Do you like my mom's office?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, it's quite nice. Maybe, maybe this will start. We'll see.
I just got the notification, so there's at least that.
Well, okay, forget that. We'll just start here in just a second. All right, let's start this bad one, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, we might as well. It's
All
as
right.
good a time as any.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
I mean, I came into this game feeling kind of good about myself and thinking that, haha, TCU lost, but also not saying that out loud to too many people or tweeting about it. Um, Also, kind of enjoying Baylor's struggles as Tech went up 17 to nothing. And now, in retrospect, it doesn't feel that good anymore, does it? How are you doing?
No, man. I was like you, enjoying the Schadenfreude earlier this afternoon. Just looking around the Big 12, like, you guys are suckers. TCU, what a sham. We knew they were fakers. Baylor
Yeah, called it. Called it. We knew,
sucks to
man.
suck. And then you jump out to 17-point lead. You're like, here we go. And so many things. I don't even know where we start. Um, like I want to rail on officials because that's what I like to do. But like you shouldn't have been in a position to be in overtime with this team. Um, it was at the end of the fourth quarter when Texas Tech was lining up for the field goal to tie it. I was like, it doesn't even matter if it goes in. Like you should not be in this position.
we shouldn't
I
we
mean, it
shouldn't
does because
feel
like
this way in week 1.
a win is a win, right? Like you would definitely hope for a win over a loss. Um, anything better than this, but dude, it I don't know. Like the after the first quarter, um, man, nothing went well. Like you quarterback, you couldn't hit guys in stride, couldn't throw guys open. Um, Offensive line couldn't block. Defensively, your defensive line, like you could have just put anybody out there wearing a a Miles Cole or Steve Linton jersey, and you wouldn't have noticed a difference because complete non-factors um, against an offensive line that had to replace three guys. Like you should not have been in the position. Like you should have ate their lunch. Um, you got one sack in overtime. They were one dimensional, and you couldn't stop it. They had to start their third string quarterback, or sorry, their third string running back. You couldn't stop it. Um, Defensively for Wyoming, like we knew they were going to be old and experienced, and they were. but the same issues of not being able to get open, you should not have struggles with these receivers. Dre McRae, like, what, he catch one ball.
He
Duran Bradley
McRae,
had what?
okay, he was McRae was one of the bright sides. He caught 5 passes, and I was really impressed with him. I mean, there's very few bright sides right now, but he was one. And Bradley, I felt like he had some great catches, but there were a couple of catches where I just didn't see the speed I was expecting to see. I thought he would be able to pull away from guys better than he was able to, but I was still impressed with what he brought down. But yeah, I mean, not having a single sack until after the 60 minutes of us had ended, and we got into extra 60 minutes. But this quarterback, I mean, he's tough. He was tough. He made some plays, but he made some awful throws. He completed 53%
Mhm.
of his passes, but somehow was still able to find a way to win. They had some good tight ends. I mean, I think his receivers did him a lot of favors. He did get hit a lot, probably after after attempts, obviously, but it wasn't what we were hoping to see, which would be sacks, him taking the ball down, and it's 3rd and 19. No, it wasn't that at all. They were able to just
Mm-mm.
march the ball down the field, and you couldn't have scripted a better start for Texas Tech to go up 17
No,
zero. One,
and you
I
did
mean,
it
just the points wise.
good offensive performance. You came out and you struck fast and first. You forced turnovers. You quick 3 and out. Um, but I don't know. So the chat says Nathan wants us to talk me over the ledge. So not like off the ledge. Just go ahead and over.
Just get
If
it
you were
over.
asking to talk off the ledge, there have been a couple of K-State guys in the mention saying that they lost to Tulane last season. And while it sucked, it didn't derail their season.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and Tulane turned out to be pretty stinking good, so that still remains to be seen for Wyoming. But yeah, I remember kind of enjoying that a little bit more than I should have when they lost.
yeah. Um, Golly, dude, I don't. Um, Defensively, I guess I'll go there. You look slow, um, like a step slow, whether it was um, on the blitzes, especially, like, just couldn't ever get to Peasley in time. Um, you created no pressure with your front four. Um, I don't know if it's week one. I don't know if it was altitude or some kind of combination, but your effort on defense was pathetic. Diving at people's feet again, trying to bump people down to the ground, going after one arm tackles, like that was Kingsbury level defense effort. You got
Yeah, and there were
outmanned
some of
by a
those.
pitiful
There were some of
G5
those try to
team.
strip the ball. Yeah, some of those strip the ball things where you should just wrap up and tackle the guy. Let's not strip the ball. I distinctly remember one in the middle of the field where
You didn't show
he just
any
wrapped
kind of
around
defensive
him
fire.
and
Yeah.
flew off.
You didn't show any kind of defensive fire until like the very end. Um, like you had 2 plays, but even then, you got burned after that. Um, I have a hard time like faulting early on when Wyoming got
I was afraid it froze. Looks like Spencer froze. Well, what I can do, if it's still recording, and I think it is,
Yeah,
I'm going to
there
read
you are.
through
Sorry.
some of the comments. There, you're back. You're back.
Good gravy.
Um, so we've got a lot of guys in the chat. Appreciate y'all listening and watching and seeing us struggle through this because this is not a fun one to do. But Alan's reminding us Tyler Shuck is now 8-2 as a tech starter, so that's slightly going the wrong direction. And he's trying to tell himself that he's never going to believe in this program again until he sees results. I tell myself that too, Alan. I don't know how often I actually get there. Maitland's letting it out, saying he's embarrassed. What is up with Kitley in this offense? And we just have a lot of frustration right now. I think a lot of us, despite history and despite what we've been through as Tech fans, bought into the hype a little bit this year. I was one of them. I even got
Yep.
pelted for predicting 8-4, thinking that, oh well, that's just too pessimistic. And right now, I'm like, my God, 8-4,
Would
huh?
be it would
Is
be
is that even
successful.
possible now? Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
remember thinking about that at halftime. It's like after the first half, man, it feels like you're closer to 7-5 than 10-2.
yeah. Well, and we're getting asked to. Nathan's bringing up. Does Oregon beat us by 40? And okay, Oregon poured it on Portland State today. I
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to dismiss that because it was what 82 to something. But Texas Tech went 77-0 on Lamar, and that was one of 5 games they won that year. So there's a chance, maybe it was inflated, maybe there's something crazy there going on, but yeah, I don't fully trust the team that played tonight to be able to hang with the Ducks that are coming next week. And I was really trying to stay focused on Wyoming that entire 4-hour game we just experienced. But I couldn't help but think of the Ducks and um, how much I maybe should have paid a little bit more attention to that game while it was on. But I just thought, oh, sure, their offense is looking good today. So is Oklahoma's. So is everybody's. And Tech's up 17-0. I don't care. Anyway, hindsight, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, offensive line, I guess that was another spot that I was really high on them. Um, and you couldn't run the ball again. Like you were up against a really old and experienced defensive line there for Wyoming. We talked about how strong the tackles were and the ends and all that kind of stuff, but stats. He, as the person taking the signal to snap the ball, he was the last offensive lineman to move, which is concerning. Like everybody else, like it was almost like they could have called a false start on many of our offensive plays because he was just that slow snapping the ball. Um, which a year and a half here on campus should have been figured out. Um, 9 months as a starting center should have been figured out. Um, no running lanes. It looked like Shuck was uncomfortable most of the night. Um, was finally able, like he finally started to run, and they were late. Um, and then it was like telegraphed, and when it went well, of course it went poorly because you now ran the same play 5 times in a row, and Wyoming is not stupid. Um, so yeah, I guess biggest disappointments for me this game were the lines. I had much higher hopes in how they would handle Wyoming offensive and defensive lines. And I think if that's what we can get out of those guys the rest of the season, 7-5 may be a success. Because
Yeah.
we've got Oregon
Yeah.
next week, Tarleton State, You shouldn't have a problem with them. And you get West Virginia, Houston, Baylor, like as winnable games on your schedule. Like you've got four in a row there. Um,
Yeah, and
before you,
Houston did take care of business today, which I didn't expect them to, but they did against UTSA. I tuned in a little bit during the halftime of Tech's game. I think something like there was a semi-controversial call at the very end. Maybe UTSA should have gotten a first down, but wasn't given the first down, or I'm not sure what happened. But it had just happened, and they were kind of
Mhm.
discussing it. So that was a close one. But uh, you just expect a little bit more effort, a little more constant effort out of this team. I don't know if mentally they thought they were fine with that heavy lead. Maybe things would have been better if it would have been more of a back and forth game. They may have been a little bit more prepared to handle it than to have such a lead handed to them, gifted to them, really, because it was mostly off turnovers. And then just that opening, I'm assuming probably scripted drive that went so well, and probably caught Wyoming on their heels because they hadn't played, anybody but themselves this whole time. And all of a sudden they're put up against a Texas Tech team, which should technically have superior athletes.
yeah,
So
should.
once that shock wore off, they seemed to adjust just fine. And they acted like a team that had a coach there in his 10th season and just went about their business and went about their game plan. Uh, to the surprise of many, I'm sure, myself included, because I just assumed that our defensive line would neutralize the only effective offensive attack they had, which was the running game. And because they were rolling in, especially once the game started going, they were rolling in fourth, fifth. I think the announcer said six string running backs in at some point. I mean, they were just handing the ball off to anybody back there, but then they were still getting yards. And it didn't, 3.9 yards per rush doesn't seem like a lot because it's really not. Um, but it's still almost a full yard more than what Tech did. Tech handled 2.8, which that's probably slightly inflated because of what Shuck did in the first overtime, which was bizarre. I mean, it worked obviously, but to be so pass heavy most of the game and then go into that overtime and just hand the ball off or have Shuck keep it every single time, but it worked, and it made you wonder, like, well, maybe that was a something they could have done more before, or they didn't want to run Shuck as much, or maybe Shuck was calling his own number in overtime. But you're right. I mean, he didn't look comfortable back there in times. One positive I can bring up, I'm trying, guys. York, I had to look up who York was.
Okay.
Scout team in 2020 and 2021, played special teams last year, played both ways in high school. 6'4", what is he? 250? I had that pulled up. Yeah, 6'4", 250. Hell of a catch. And so a tight end that
Yeah.
wasn't even on our depth chart made one of the few highlights of this game.
Yeah. Excited to see that. And when he scored, we were actually driving back from Denton tonight. Somebody was like, we scored a touchdown, number 15. I was like, I don't even know who that is. So she showed it to me like, oh, it's York. He's like our fourth string tight end. Like, well, that's
Yeah.
exciting. Like, if he's getting in and making an impact, like, heck yeah, man. Um, but, dude, I don't even know, man. Um, like when I guess it was 17-10. Like, guys in the Discord were like, "Hey, this doesn't feel like we're up at all. Like, it feels like we're down by 10 even." And we had, 7-point lead. I was like, yeah. And I wasn't, and I said, I'm not concerned about this game, but I'm concerned about the season. And then I was like, I'm more concerned about
Right.
this game. And it felt inevitable. It's like one of those just sinking feelings, like what's happening? When Garcia missed that field goal with 5 minutes to go, I turned to Samantha and I said, "We're not getting the ball back. That's game." Wyoming was up 20-17 at that point, and they had just taken off like 20 minutes of clock straight. It felt like. Um, let's see. They ended the night with not as much time of possession as I would have expected, 34 minutes. Um, there was a typo on the broadcast where it, with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, it said that Wyoming had the ball for 40 minutes. It's like, yeah, that isn't math, but that feels about right because we're 40 minutes into this game. Um, but it didn't feel wrong. They outpossessed you by nearly 10 minutes there. Um,
Well,
it
they
just one
had
of
the
those like
ball
slow
almost the
bleeds.
entire third quarter.
Yeah.
It was they had back to back in just the third quarter. Well, I guess the second one ended in the fourth. But yeah, they had back to back drives of 7 minutes 31 seconds and 6 minutes 14,
There's 14 minutes.
and both of them ended in a score. Yeah, so I mean they had the ball for a full quarter pretty much on consecutive drives. I'm not gonna get too in my head on Garcia. I mean, he was asked to do the impossible at the end of this, at the end of the second quarter, where
Which
for whatever reason,
he got completely
why did we
screwed.
take that timeout? Yeah, I mean, did was everyone scared to death of this backup quarterback who they just ran up the middle on a 3rd and 10 and then punted? So I mean, we burned a timeout for that and got into field goal range, but didn't have a timeout to properly set up for the field goal. And so I don't blame him on that at all.
No, I
It's
don't
hard to
blame him for
blame
that
him on
one.
a block. And then
Well,
the doink, I mean, it's a 50-yarder. That was incredible to have it that to get to that point. So that was just kind of how the night went. At that point I'd kind of accepted my fate when
yeah,
that
and,
doink
and
hit. I thought, yeah, that's about it.
I don't know who was responsible for the game clock tonight. They were slow,
Yeah.
and it was the same for both teams, but like they were just bad. Um, so like going into half, when whether it was Price or Brown, he caught the ball in the middle of the field, down with 3 seconds. They ran 2 seconds off the clock and then stopped it, um, leaving you with just the 1 second. And like you get in that weird spot where like you can't really wait for them to blow the whistle to start the clock because then you're not gonna have time to snap
Mhm.
it. But the official over the ball backs up, then we snap it. Like, oh no, it wasn't ready yet. We weren't ready. And of course, he nails that field goal. They go back, reset it, snap it as soon as they can after the official blows the whistle, and he misses it. So I don't like. I, I'm with you. I'm not on Garcia for that one. That may have gotten just the weirdness of that may have affected him because college kickers, man, and they're just head cases. He had to drive that 50-yarder. Offensive line got blown up, and he just nailed the the offensive line in the back. Um, it wasn't blocked so much as he just
Yeah,
sniped the hell
that's a
out of
good
his
point.
left guard. um, and then he shanked the other one, which is it happens, right? But again, you shouldn't have been in that position where a field goal would have mattered. When you're a 14-point road favorite. Um, was it weather? Was it going up there and playing at altitude? Was it playing a program like Wyoming? It probably all these things, but um, Brian had some positives in the chat. Like you at least have a lot of game film to look at now. You went to two overtimes, so that's I guess that's a positive. Um, you do have 11 games, and I guess it is okay to get better and to learn and improve off of a game like this. Um, you're not gonna you know be a completely different team. You're not going to be like worlds better like one week to the next, but they always say the biggest improvement is going to come from week 1 to week 2, and you're like, you're going to need it if you're going to be competitive with Oregon next week. Um, but you're going to be back at home. You're going to have the week 1 stuff out of the way. Um, Nathan shares that the black white uniform combination is 1 in 5. So let's just drop the white
Oh no.
pants, fire the equipment
Well,
manager.
don't
Um,
really drop the pants. I mean, keep
no,
pants
the
on.
white pants. No, we stop wearing
Okay.
white pants. Um,
Okay.
so I don't know, man. Like there's you can pick anything you want at this game. Um, Definitely wasn't expecting to be on here for the instant reaction. Uh, um, I had expected, like I really did expect this to be more of a blowout. And when it was closer in the first half, I was like, okay, well, an ugly win is still a win. So, we'll hop on. We'll talk about it, man. Like we got things to fix, but we want to know. Damn it, can't
Right.
even say that. So, um, anything anything else,
Yes.
Michael, before we wrap up tonight?
Nothing major. I mean, just selfishly, I came into this more concerned about the spread because, as I've mentioned before, in Vegas, I did actually put 50 on this one. So that's gone. But
Bye.
that's really all I was just like, ah, yeah, it's going to be a win. We may not like it. There's going to be some things that will probably be exposed, and Wyoming's a tough team. It's going to be a great place to play, good atmosphere. The lightning delay was weird. Then everything about it was weird beyond that. So, you know, my fault for not coming in, probably giving Wyoming more respect. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot to say on this that we haven't already covered. Just offense looked lost at times. Defense coverage was sketchy at best against a
Yep.
quarterback who missed a lot of throws, fortunately. So that's going to be really bad. It's going to be a bad look on a quarterback who can hit his receivers. And then I did want to point out one thing, one more positive. Owens had an awesome touchdown saving breakup on. It was that was one of Peasley's rare dimes. He just threw an absolute dime to the end zone, and Owens played it perfectly. Wasn't pass interference. You didn't even hear the crowd in Laramie boo because they just were like, "Oh man, that was a good play." So that was a good thing to see. I was just talking about suspect pass coverage, so I thought, well, let me come back and bring up a really good play that I enjoyed that was executed perfectly. So I'm I'm nervous as I'll get out about Oregon now. I'm sure the lines won't be out for another day or two, but we are. What do you think it's going to be? I mean, I would put us as maybe similar to tonight. Do you think we'll be maybe not 2 touchdown dogs at home, but I mean, I think they're going to set it to where we're minus 8.5 for Oregon or something like that. I don't know. I wonder if you guys are
I
still with us in the chat. Say what you think the line will be next week against Oregon, because I have no idea.
I've never really been good at that. So like my brain was saying like 2 score, um, 8 or 9,
Last
13 and a
Sunrise
half,
has Oregon at
40.
minus 40.
So
13 and a half. Yeah, Oregon minus 13. I could see a 2 touchdown dog at home with with what
that
they
would be
saw
fun.
from just a sample size of one game, week one. You're probably going to go, oh, well, Oregon did this, and Tech did this. Yeah, I bet it'll start as a 2 touchdown and then hopefully slide towards 10 and a half. I don't know. Gross. That's all I've got, man.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have the Oregon preview on Tuesday night. Join in that show like we do every week here on the the 23 Personnel Podcast YouTube page. You can catch it in your podcast feeds Wednesday morning. That'll do it for us tonight on the 23 Personnel Podcast. Your instant reaction to Texas Tech dropping 35-33 to Wyoming in double overtime. For Michael, Spencer, we'll catch you guys next time.